Hello, hello. Welcome to Newbies to Movies. I'm Tyler.
I'm Justin, the movie guy.
This is a podcast where we like to talk about new movies that we're watching based around like a theme, actor, actress, or director. With this week's theme being actress, one of the GOATs, Meryl Streep herself. But before we get into that, we usually like to start off with other stuff that we've been watching this week. And then like a new segment that we started, which is like movie news of this week as well. So Justin, you want to start off with like what you've been watching this week?
Yeah, I've been really face first into Invincible right now. It's been pretty nuts, especially because last week Big Bad was kind of introduced and everybody was kind of like, oh, he's not really that big and bad. He's kind of just like a bitch. And then, yeah, this week we realized we were all talking shit about the wrong guy because he went ape shit and did a lot of bad stuff. So it was pretty cool to see. Definitely, they're absolutely screwed. There's no coming back from it. I don't think they ever fully recover. But pretty great show. I love it. Obviously, I'm a comic book nerd, but yeah, I've been really diving into that last episode of the season next week, so it should be interesting.
Yeah, I've been hearing really good things from other people that have been watching it as well. Been pretty notable on this podcast that I never really got into it, even though I did try it out. I gave it like 4 episodes. Just wasn't for me, I guess. I don't know. I think it's just super comparable to The Boys, and I guess I just like the grittiness of The Boys a little bit more. I guess the nastiness is what you also could call The Boys, because there's just straight up scenes in this Boys that is just nasty.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. Yeah. So I went to the movie theaters 3 times this week. The first time on Monday, it was like a seen unseen thing by AMC, and it was the movie Normal. It stars Bob Odenkirk, who was in Better Call Saul. Pretty good like action movie. It's from the same guy that made John Wick and the Nobody movies. But I don't know what happened to make Bob Odenkirk, this guy in his 50s and 60s, all of a sudden an action star. Like he does not give off action star vibes, but he's in this like action movie. It was pretty decent, surprising me. And then one of my movies that I really look forward to as far as like a comedy horror, Over Your Dead Body, I saw on Wednesday night, a week early, and it was really good. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed the comedy horror part of it, to where it's like it's not gonna try to scare you. It's just like parts of it's like super gross out and stuff, but it's about this family. Starts off with like this couple who go to this secluded place in the woods, and they like try, and they both are trying to kill each other, and get away with it. But then it turns into like this whole other scene with like robbers getting involved in all this. And then I saw The Mummy on Friday, Lee Cronin's Mummy, and that is probably the gnarliest film I've ever seen in my life. I mean, it's like if you like the Evil Dead movies, this movie is just on caliber of like just nastiness. I gave it 2.5 stars just for being literally the gnarliest movie I've ever seen. Where like everyone in the theater's like, ugh. It's just about a lot of the scenes. It's just nasty. The plot has a lot of problems with it, but I just had to give it at least like a 50% just because I was like, this is like the nastiest thing I've ever seen. Don't recommend it to you if you like easily get startled up by that kind of stuff.
That's my problem with some of these horror franchises. I feel like is like they're gonna remake the Mummy again in the next 10 years, and they're just gonna
Yeah.
keep doing it, and every time it's gonna suck. And I'm just like, at what point do we look at the story and be like, there's just not enough here to make a good movie?
Yeah, the thing is, like, this is nothing connected to any of the other type of mummy movies.
Yeah,
It's like its own story kind of thing. It's just like there's like a part of it that's like kind of human trafficking element to it that you and I don't know. It just misses on that. It's just like fucking gnarly. I don't know how else. It's just nasty. It's like got skin ripping off, like fingernails like ripping off, like throw up all over, blood all over, grandmas with like get stabbed through their feet. Dude, it's crazy. But cool. Yeah. So then we'll just transition right into the news where I'll like give off some segments and then see what you think about it, Justin.
yeah.
So starting off, like this was CinemaCon this week, which is where like a bunch of cinema owners like AMC, Regal people, and these big companies like Warner Bros, Disney, and all that like kind of advertise their films to these people that are spending a lot of money to put them in theaters, who pretty much are buying it from them. So that's kind of what it's around. But the first big news is Top Gun 3 is happening, and it's like set to be with Tom Cruise and the whole ordeal. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, makes sense, right? He's gonna make movies till he's dead, and that movie just made $1 billion at the box office, so why not?
Yeah. The Kaczynski, the guy that made F1 as well, it isn't confirmed if he's directing or not. I feel like if he's not, it'd be questionable because I think he's really good at those like kind of epic adventure movies. I just don't know where they're going with the story at this point. You already did Russia. Fuck it. Let's do China at this point. Or you just have him go to the Middle East and you're like, all right. So the next one, the Spaceballs, the new one has now been confirmed and it's gonna star Bill Pullman and his son, Louis Pullman. What do you think about this?
Yeah, that's pretty funny. I've seen them. I don't know where they were at together. Maybe it was a red carpet event or something, but their banter is actually pretty hilarious as well.
Yeah.
So I can imagine that movie will definitely probably do well, especially for, I know that's definitely like a cult classic kind of movie. Like there's a big fan base for that movie. So
Yeah. I think people that love the original, like I really like the original. I know our buddy Nathan loves it too. He quotes it all the time. Mel Brooks is the one that announced it at it, but like he's not directing it because he's 99 years old. But it'll be interesting. I think a lot of people are gonna have their eyes on it, and like if it fails, it's gonna be a lot of hatred towards it because the original is so beloved.
yeah, I mean, I think there's been a lot of not so good Star Wars you can really rip up right now. So that's the other
Yeah,
good thing.
yeah, exactly. Like if somehow Palpatine or is it mentioned? I swear, man, they're just missing a good opportunity. Um, okay, the next thing is the next Ocean's movie, so like the heist movies is gonna star and be directed by Bradley Cooper, but bringing back like George Clooney, Brad Pitt, Matt Damon are all coming back as well. Gonna be a huge movie.
Yeah, I mean, in the time of just rebooting every franchise ever, I see why this would be done. I haven't seen the
Yeah.
original Oceans movies. I definitely need to check them out before this. Interesting to have Bradley Cooper direct, I think. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. He's directed A Star is Born. He directed is this thing on that came out this past year. I think he's kind of given up on the opportunity for an Oscar. I think he was obsessed with that for a while. And I think he's just like, all right, it looks like it's not happening for me. So he's just finally just gonna take big paychecks and do some fun things now. And then the next thing is like there's been great reviews of the trailer for Digger revolving around like Tom Cruise and like environmental catastrophic event, but comedy. Especially talking about how like Tom Cruise is just looks really good in this and this may be his time.
Yeah, that's what I've heard too. The role is not something that he would normally play. So, I mean, I think if the story's there, yeah, he could definitely get some Oscar love. I could see.
Yeah. Uh, Justin watched Tropic Thunder this week, and a lot of people are comparing his role in Digger to Lex Grossman. So like he's like kind of bringing that kind of comedy out in him. But
Yeah.
for a whole movie, it would be interesting to see how that works.
Yeah. I didn't see the official trailer yet, but I did see people comparing it on Twitter or X,
Yeah,
which is pretty funny after watching that movie this week.
yeah. The next thing is Jeremy Strong as Zuckerberg is also getting great acclaim to where a lot of people are like, he's got the mimicry down to like really good point. There's still questions about how the movie's gonna work,
Yeah.
but they say, wow, he looks and acts exactly like Mark Zuckerberg in like all the footage so far.
Yeah, this is for the next social network movie, right?
Yep.
Yeah, should
Social
be interesting.
reckoning. Yeah, it's got a big thing to look for, like to kind of get compared to because Social Network is like one of the most acclaimed movies of the 20th first century. So we'll see. The next thing is Clayface, the other DC movie that's coming out this year. It's going to be officially like rated R, and they're going full horror into this. I'm just interested in what you think about this as like a comic book fan, but also like this seems like a really risky choice on like a new DC like universe.
So from what I've heard, they're stating that it's not set in Robert Pattinson's Batman and it's not set in James Gunn's universe either. So it's kind of just like its own separate thing out there. And I think the studio does that on purpose, right? If this movie sucks, they can just be like, yep, never happened.
Yeah.
But I think it is about time we get a true comic book horror movie. I can't really think back to one that was noticeably
Probably the Joker would be like best example.
exactly. And then, that's a horror, but it's more like a psychological horror. I think this, you can really go
Yeah.
full like actual horror. And there was a lot of talk originally about Multiverse of Madness, the Doctor Strange movie, getting into being like a horror movie in the beginning.
Yeah.
And then that turned out to be shit. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think I'm excited to see like how this can be done. Because I think it can. It's just got to have the right people in the right place.
Yeah. No, I agree with that like just overall it could be really good. It could be super risky for them, and then it'd be a total miss to where like they have to like kind of objectively. But imagine if Supergirl doesn't do well either, which like there's a lot of reviews of Supergirl coming out that's like really iffy about it. For me, I'm not really that impressed by the trailer for Supergirl, so we'll see.
I mean,
Um,
it's like Guardians of the Galaxy 4 is just what it feels like.
yeah, exactly. Doesn't seem like anything crazy for James Gunn, but this seems like a pretty interesting choice. I'll probably definitely see it because horror movie and comic book is like right up my alley.
Yeah, should be good.
And then the last thing is Thomas Crown Affair, which is about like a millionaire bank robber. It's going to be starring and directed by the most recent Oscar winner, Michael B. Jordan, which I think is really interesting for him.
Yeah, that should be interesting. I mean, he took over on Creed 3, right? He was directing Creed 3.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, he made Creed 3. Yeah.
that was probably my favorite Creed movie out of the bunch. I think I really enjoyed his inspiration with anime and the fighting style. So I don't know how the action will be. It sounds like there's going to be some sort of kind of action involved in this. So I think he'll do
Yeah.
a good job at that. Just hope the story's there, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. It's a remake of a 1999 movie, but it sounds like that he's taking a lot of like inspiration from it, but like not the same exact story. So not like a one by one remake. Be interesting, you know, coming off an Oscar win and like wanting to go into like the directing route. It seems like more so in his career at this point. Kind of like one of the guys that we're going to be talking today along with Streep. Clint Eastwood kind of did this at his point of his career too. He never won an Oscar like that, but or like as an actor, but it seems very similar to like the age time when Clint Eastwood started doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, winning an Oscar opens up so many opportunities for you
Yeah.
well as, you know, not having to really have that pressure anymore to feel like you got to go do it as an actor. You can try something else now, something you
Yeah,
enjoy doing.
I agree. Awesome. So yeah, that's the second time that we did like news. We'll see like if each week kind of warrants like a news thing, but this week definitely did just because it was a big CinemaCon thing for it. So a lot of big announcements by these big companies. Cool. So yeah, the actress this week is Meryl Streep. Just one of like the really like well-known actresses. She has a big movie coming out this summer, The Devil Wears Prada 2. This is kind of in prep for that, but also I feel like she's just had to be somebody that we need to get on our radar. I don't feel like we have watched enough of her movies, and she's like a 24 time or like 21 nominated like actress for best actress and best supporting actress in the Oscars, like Academy, which is just insane.
Yeah,
I
it's a
think
lot.
21 nomination. It's just no one else is that much. Like not even close. Like I don't think anybody is even close. She has only three wins. So 3 out of 21. Having 21 is just impressive enough to like say how good you are as an actress. So what do you think first off, if you want to say about Meryl Streep?
Yeah. I didn't, like you said, I don't think I've actually seen any of her movies coming into this week, which is might sound absurd. I just, you know, she's in a lot of movies I'd never really had been interested in growing up. And I mean, I know that's the point of the podcast, right? You know, get out there, try some different things that we haven't seen before. And I'm glad we did. Definitely a great actor. I mean, we'll get more into the movies and her specific roles, but definitely highly regarded for a good reason.
Yeah. Yeah. I've only really seen the Devil Wears Prada movie, and I don't think I've really seen much more with her. I know my mom is a big fan of her though. So she watched a lot of her movies, and I probably was just watching them vicariously through her, meaning like I just walked by and I'm like, ah, it's a movie with her. I've also seen Mamma Mia, so she's also in that. And I know Justin probably doesn't interest him for Mamma Mia, but
I've seen parts of it, you know, when it's on the TV, that kind of stuff. But yeah, not really my cup of tea, I guess.
yeah. Well, she is in one of your favorite movies of all time, Fantastic Mr. Fox. She does
Yeah.
voice act in that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, she was really good this week. Like the movies, we saw 3 movies with her. And we'll kind of get into that first, but we'll just like give a good background of like, so she started off being like an Oscar or an opera singer. And then she went to Yale though. And from there, she kind of started off young in her actress career. Like, I guess just choosing really smart movie choices because she chose The Deer Hunter and Kramer versus Kramer back-to-back years to really start off her career. She won an Oscar in her like 3rd movie ever. And The Deer Hunter and Kramer versus Kramer were both Best Picture winners. Just really smart choices to start your career, you know, and
Yeah.
then just like kind of direct your career into like stardom from that point. And then from there, she just kept getting nominated. It felt like every other year from the
Yeah.
80s until the 90s. And then I think the most like publicly known role for her has been The Devil Wears Prada and Mamma Mia itself. But then she won her third Oscar in 2011 with one of the movies we did this week, The Iron Lady. Cool though. One of the movies that we were going to choose this week was Kramer versus Kramer because we were like, oh, she won her first Oscar for this. Let's check it out. But she's like a super supporting role in this film, so we ended up just bringing it to like just talk about it in general. So, Justin, you want to give a quick review of like what you thought of Kramer versus Kramer?
Yeah, no, I think, obviously her winning a supporting role actress. Supporting is tough because so many times we've seen something like RDJ and Oppenheimer, like that was a huge role in the movie, but obviously the supporting role. And then you see her in this, and I think I texted you like an hour in. I was like, dude, she's been in it for 5 minutes. Like we got to do something. We
Yeah,
can't sit here and talk about how great her acting was when we've barely seen her. And she definitely came around more in the end. So obviously it's about a family of three, right? You have the husband, the wife, and the child.
yeah,
And so she basically walks out on the relationship. She's done with the kind of family life. She feels like she's not a good mother, moves out west to California, and it's more about the dad. I'm blanking on the actor's name. He's so great.
Dustin Hoffman.
Dustin Hoffman. He's it's about him and his job, him trying to raise his kid while also managing being a workaholic, basically, and his relationship with his son, who was very stuck on where's mommy the whole time, and then kind of moving towards the end. It gets into like a custody battle in court, and then obviously that's when she comes more into play in about the last 30 minutes or so. But it was a really good movie. It was a fun movie, family movie, but also had some pretty deep themes that unfortunately this world has a lot of split families, and making sure that you just kind of have the best thing going on for the child is the most important thing. And I think that's kind of what we get out of the ending. But yeah, really great acting all around in that. And even the kid, I don't know who the kid was, he was really great and really actually hilarious throughout the movie.
Yeah, yeah. Um, I really enjoyed the movie, but like you said, it's not a Meryl Streep movie. It's a Dustin Hoffman movie for sure. I think it's really effectively done. I guess like during this time, like maybe dual parenting or like a dual
Joint
custody.
custody.
Yeah, joint custody wasn't like a really notable thing, I guess, at that time. Because like nowadays, like they didn't seem like they hated each other in the movie, so it was like joint custody would be definitely the route to go. But I guess during the time the film was made, it just wasn't really a thing, or it wasn't as known, even though he had plenty of good reasons to hate her
Yeah.
throughout the film, and she's kind of made to be the villain of the film, if anything. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. We're lucky enough to like come from families that don't have to deal with this, but I'm reading a lot of the reviews. It's like, raise your hand. Like, if you're a divorced like kid, this movie hits hard, and you're just like, and I'm like, oh, I bet it does,
Yeah.
because you just never know what goes behind the scenes and stuff as like a little kid.
Yeah, and it's so hard to
But
grasp that as a kid too, right? And I think the
yeah,
child actor did a really great job of displaying that. He had no idea what was going on most of the time. And so he's asking these very innocent questions, but it's just breaking apart Dustin Hoffman's character, which was really good to watch. Really, really well done from both of them.
yeah, and seeing him transform as like not just a dad, but as like a man himself,
Yeah.
to where he thought like his career was like all that mattered. And then you could just see like him shift to like being like an actual full on parent that he wasn't before. And like the scene of when he falls and he has to get stitches and he runs through like the streets for it was like a really emotional, but also like uplifting scene for him as like a character study.
Yeah, very much so. I was gonna tell you like on the side, but we definitely need to do Dustin Hoffman one week because we've
Yeah.
watched
I
Rain
feel like
Man and now
yeah,
this. And yeah, I
yeah,
need to see more of him, dude. He's really great.
yeah. Because I heard The Graduate is one that we need to check out. So I feel like we got to put him on the list because we already watched his two movies that he won his Oscars for. So we already started off strong.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, the movies that we ended up choosing this week was The Iron Lady and The Bridges of Madison County. So first we'll start off with The Iron Lady, even though it came out later. Um, it's set in a time later, like earlier, kind of. So yeah, Justin, just get right into it.
Yeah. I'm just gonna dive right into the plot. Basically, this movie is a Margaret Thatcher biopic, right? So really reflects on her life and her career as she kind of prepares to dispose of her belongings of her late husband. This movie's constantly jumping back and forth between her with some sort of dementia, maybe Alzheimer's and late age, and then her like living out the past events that she had been through. Obviously, for those that don't know, feel about her, which I get is a take in itself. You don't want to force any feelings on anybody, but make up your mind. If you're going to do a biopic and you want to tell about her trials and tribulations to getting there, then do that. Or if you want to talk about her trials and tribulations of being like really hated and like looked at as a villain, then do that. It felt like this was a mix of what three different movies should have been, three different tellings of
Yeah.
her life. So overall, with the plot, I gave it a 4. I just think it was really messy, really rushed, and yeah, the time jumping really killed me in this as well.
Yeah. I think the plot itself turns really into like a disrespectful take on her
Mhm.
life, like one of the most prominent figures in like British history. And it's interesting that you say the reading the reviews that people said that she wasn't. I think at the time when she got fired or replaced, pretty much, yeah, she wasn't like very much liked. But then like 10 years later, she's looked back as like there was a reason why she was not like renominated 3 times. She was probably one of the best prime ministers I've read of, like one of the most liked of all time in British history. Obviously we're American, so it comes from a place where like we can only read so much. We don't actually live there, so like you never know. But reading into like some her family like really criticized the film and the depiction of her, and reportedly said that the film sounded like some left wing fantasy and wasn't actually who their mother was, and didn't really depict her like situation at the end of her like life accurate at all, and even like how she missed her like late husband like was just very disrespectful. That's a lot of like reviews coming from her family itself.
Yeah. I felt like definitely hit the nail on the head there. I didn't know anything about this lady, and I immediately was like, how are they just like portraying her like visibly seeing her husband in the later parts of her life? Like they have no idea what was going on in her head, and they're just making that like such a huge plot point. That's just disrespectful in itself, making this lady seem like she's crazy, and she might have not even been.
Yeah.
Like it's just kind of messed up.
Yeah, especially because the reviews are from her family's being like, okay, maybe like the maids accidentally heard her like mistakenly say her like husband's name, Desmond, a bunch of times, but it wasn't like out of a place where like he was imaginary to her. It was like just like they lived with each other for so long. It wasn't like a hysterical thing that she was going through. It sounds like,
Yeah,
obviously, when you get old, you just become like, if you lose somebody that important in your life, it's been with you forever. It's like obviously you're gonna miss them and stuff. Like
yeah.
who won't? But it's become such a critical plot point that I think it's just kind of lazy. And again, like don't want to hit too much, like kill the dead horse, but it seems very disrespectful. Man.
No, I agree. Kind of getting into that with the characters, I thought the characters were lacking very much so. Not to hate too much on Meryl Streep because I think she did act this well, really roll really well. We'll get into that with acting though. I think the character was done really poorly. I think the time jumping really messed with me a lot. You know, we start her as old age, obviously clearly dementia or something like that, and she's jumping back and forth between like really important parts of her life, but those parts felt very short. It would jump to something that seemed very important, like the Falcon Wars, and that maybe lasted 3 minutes of the whole movie between cuts.
Yeah.
If you cut it all together, and it was just like, dude, this is so rushed, and you're trying to tell this lady's whole life story in basically half a movie because the other half is just her being old and senile. And it's like, what, like,
Yeah.
it's just so poorly done and so rushed. Cool to see Olivia Colman in this. Obviously, another great British actor, just playing her daughter, which was cool. But I mean, the character itself didn't really matter. Her husband, I feel like every time he did appear in her head, they were just talking about how he wasn't really there or he was really there. There was no actual like connection between them. There was no like deep dive and their character arc. Nothing I got out of that relationship in the movie, which was kind of frustrating for me.
Yeah. I agree with you to where I think a lot of like the characters are very lazily done to where there's not like much to know about them. The only reason why I gave it kind of a positive rating on it was just because I think Meryl Streep's so excellent playing Margaret Thatcher to where a lot of the good reviews like or like a lot of the reviews about it is like she is like like reliably like perfect in that role. But it's mirrored in like a self-important, bland storytelling kind of review. And then Roger Ebert kind of made a good thing where or good comment about when in his review was like, she's all dressed up with nowhere to go in the film. And few people were like neutral in their feelings about her, except the makers of this picture itself. So I feel like she's just given like the one of the worst scripts with one of the best performances. So it's like a really odd feeling about this movie where I feel so strongly about the performance, but I really just hate the movie.
Yeah. Tyler, how am I gonna feel about the cinematography here?
Probably really low because it's super gray.
Thank you, Tyler. This movie felt so dumb and washed out. Like I felt like I was watching The Color Gray. I get people say that Britain's like that 24/7 365 anyway, so cool, but I just couldn't get anything out of it. And I guess if the director really wanted to sell me on it, they could say, "Oh, this movie was gray because of her declining mental state." And then to that I would say, "Dude, write a better story. That whole plot
Yeah.
point sucked."
Yeah. No, yeah, it's a super bland way of cinematography. Doesn't add anything to the story. I don't want to keep just reiterating how much I don't like this movie, but yeah, the cinematography is just boring. Doesn't seem like anything special. Yeah, London's great, but not every day, you know?
Yeah.
I don't, yeah,
Yeah, it didn't excite me at all. And, yeah, it was yeah. I feel bad because I keep harping on the bad things too, but it just wasn't a good film, I don't think. Getting into the dialogue, I felt like it was cliche. I felt like it was very Oscar baity. It really tried to like set up like scenes for her to like, just like have like this big moment and tell everybody off, which is fine. One of them that really threw me off, she said, "Watch your thoughts for they become words." And I said, I'd like to add to that quote, if you heat it up, it's going to get hot. Just stupid quotes. Like, of course.
yeah, no, you're right. And then also like, I guess I see where the director was trying to do something cool, I guess, where like there's flashbacks of like her, like all the guys trying to talk over her and like these board meetings, and then it flashes to her young, like her older and younger, but it's like, it just seems crowded dialogue,
Yeah.
like in her head to where you're thinking that like, oh, she's confused with like all these men trying to overspeak her, where like, but I didn't really understand what he was trying to say with that.
Yeah.
It just seemed really crowded to me.
And I think what I was kind of getting at to earlier is like, I think if you take that first portion, right, with the young actor, Alexandra Roach playing her, even if you had Meryl Streep play it, that's fine too. My point is, take that first section of her trials and tribulations into becoming prime minister. That's the movie. I don't need to hear about all the stuff that happened later when she was prime minister and how some people hated her. Take that approach. You want to tell a great,
Yeah.
inspiring story? Tell me about how she got there. Make a sequel if you want to about her time in office, or have
Yeah.
somebody else direct it and tell that dark side story. But you can't fit all that into one film, and that's just where it became too much. And that's where the dialogue got super crammed, like you were saying, all these jumping back and forth, and it made me lost.
Yeah. I think biopic movies that we've done in the past as well is like trying to do an entire life of somebody is really difficult to properly do. And in my opinion, the best biopics are ones that don't try to do that. They try to go after certain points in people's lives. I just think of Lincoln as like such a good example of like one of the most prominent parts of him being president is made into that movie. And that's why I think that movie's so effective. It's interesting that we saw this kind of biopic right before Michael comes out this week for us, the Michael Jackson biopic, to where it's trying to depict his whole career. And I just don't think it's going to work, in my opinion. I don't know. It looks like a great performance. I mean, he's literally related to Michael Jackson. He's literally his nephew. But doing a whole career of somebody that big, it's just, I don't know, man. It just doesn't seem like.
It can be a lot. And I think the one thing you do have with doing an artist is there is typically a beginning, middle, and end of their career. With this, it was, her whole life. It wasn't spread across the 25, 30-year career. It was literally, I don't know how old she was. I'm assuming probably 80, 85 years from when she was a teenager until she was basically senile. And so that's a lot more ground to cover as well. You're right. Yeah, it could be a lot and it could be hard to do. So we'll see. Getting into the set design, I gave it a 2. I thought it felt super shallow. All the sets, specifically the house, got really repetitive. I felt lost every time I was in there. Maybe they were trying to make her feel that way. I feel like I'm reaching by saying that because we already knew she was kind of out of her mind at this point. Again, she probably definitely wasn't, but it's just that was what the character was building to, unfortunately. So yeah.
Yeah. And they spend like, I don't even know if this is part of the set design, but the first 10 minutes is her trying to get milk. And they're like, why did she go get milk by herself? It's like that used to be the prime minister of Great Britain. Chill out for a second. Like, come
Yeah.
on now. Like you think like even like nurses wouldn't respect her at that opinion. Like they were like, oh no, like she's a senile old lady. It's like, no, like she's probably like one of the most successful women of like any generation, and you're
Yeah.
just like, no, she can't go get milk by herself. I don't know. For me, that I was like, all right. I also like, I thought it was not Streep at the beginning of the movie. I was like, oh, that looks like a way different older lady. And then it took like 5 minutes for me to be like, wait a second, that is her. Holy
Yeah.
shit.
Also hilarious how she's like in a bodega getting the milk and just nobody recognized her at all, which is kind of
Yeah,
nuts.
yeah. Yeah, that was also insane to me. It's like, okay, maybe it was like 20 plus years ago, but you guys never opened like a history book, I guess, like of your own history. Maybe Great Britain doesn't teach themselves that, but
I
like,
mean, no, just
I
consider
thought,
like if you saw like a previous president in our lifetime that was president, like say Bush, you would recognize George Bush.
yeah, or Bill Clinton right
Yeah,
away. I'd be like,
Clinton
oh
too.
yeah, yeah. Like, I feel like that's like I don't know, it's like the head of the parliament. I feel like that's like the equal to like the president. I guess like the queen too. Like
Mm,
no one would like miss out on the queen, but I feel like she's just as prominent if you're gonna vote her in. I don't
yeah.
know.
Getting into the acting, I gave it a 6. Meryl Streep really is carrying the 6 far. Pretty much just Meryl Streep. Even Olivia Colman as playing her daughter, I thought was kind of weak. But again, I think it was just a poorly written character. Her husband's
Yeah,
character was poorly written. He was just kind of like joking around the whole movie. I know he's doing a flashback, but every scene it was just him like messing with her, like banter like he's still alive. It was nothing like a serious connection between them, which kind of killed that character as well. Yeah, Meryl Streep did great in this role, but again, I thought the character itself felt thin, and she did pretty great with working with the little.
no, yeah, I agree with that. I only rated it like a 9 just because I thought it was like probably one of the best like biopic performances I've ever seen from like an actress, and this is like the one highlight that I wanted to talk about. Because she did win her third Oscar for this, and she was just really fantastic. To where it would have been really cool if she actually did like a Margaret Thatcher film and like with an actual good story,
Yeah.
with somebody that actually gave her some like context to work with, rather than because she's like uncannily like like so good and like mimics her so well. It's really cool.
Getting into directing, I gave it a 4. Directed by Phyllida Lloyd. Also worked with Meryl Streep in Mamma Mia. Supposedly, she was trying to get after a Shakespearean take on Margaret Thatcher's life. To that, I'd say go watch Hamnet. He would have hated this movie.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I
it
did
just
not read that. That is probably one of the dumbest things I've heard in my life. But all right, keep
yeah,
going.
I don't know really where that came from. I was just reading on Google about this director, and that's what she said. So I was like, okay, good luck on your next film if they call you back. But yeah, I just
Yeah,
didn't get much out of this movie that I enjoyed besides the acting.
yeah. It's crazy how like Mamma Mia is a super successful movie, and I think done really well. So then like Hollywood was clearly like, oh yeah, you can go ahead and like do a movie, and then like after this, she only directed one more movie, and that one movie also was a miss. So she hasn't done anything since. They're like, actually, never mind. They're like, let's not give this girl a blank check ever again.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
probably my
maybe.
worst rating I've ever given a director. Yeah,
Yeah, and maybe if it was a fun movie like Mamma Mia, that would be cool for her to do, but not this dreary, terrible film like.
Oscar Beatty film. Yeah,
Yeah. Another highlight I had, I thought the soundtrack was half decent. I gave it a 7. It was composed by Thomas Newman. He does a lot of Pixar movies as well, if you've heard his name before. I thought it was pretty decent. It actually caught my eye a couple times in this movie and definitely kept me awake. That was the best part of it.
yeah. I guess that's what kept drawing me back in was the music as well. Yeah, Tom Newman does sound very familiar. I'm trying to see what else he's done.
I know Nemo was one. I can look here.
He did Shawshank Redemption, Little Women, American Beauty, Finding Nemo, Wall-E, Skyfall, Bridge of Spies,
1917.
Passengers, 19. Yeah. All right. Yeah, this guy's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I recognized that it was good music, and then I afterwards I when we were doing the notes for the show, I was looking it up, and I was like, oh yeah, this makes a lot of sense now. Why I felt half decent about this coming in.
Yeah. No, definitely really good. And again, if it was like framed around like a better plot line, it probably would have been like added really well to like the story itself.
Yeah. For the themes, I gave it a hard 2, and this is where my notes started tanking, and I started getting in a really bad mood. Yeah, this movie just framed a terrible narrative through her battle with dementia. It felt really ghoulish. It felt like, yeah, just like a very bad exercise of how to frame a biopic. It really skipped over a lot of the major events in Margaret Thatcher's life, which I read about after the movie. The miners' strikes was a huge deal. The Falklands Wars, they touched on, but it's just like it was treated as like a backdrop of the overarching dementia case that we were going through. And I just feel like that's not a way to tell a story of somebody's life, especially a story of somebody as important as this. And even, the idea of her being the first female prime minister was really like looked over. It was like a 25-minute thing max in the beginning of the movie. And I felt like you could have told a whole movie about just that and her trials and tribulations and getting there. So yeah, it just really went nowhere for me.
Yeah, I gave it a 1, so
Yeah.
even lower than a 2. For me, it was just, yeah, I just didn't really like the disrespectful. It seems like the thing about biopics is that I feel like as a director, you need to come into it of a frame of like people are seeing this film and this is like their first insight about who this person is really. And if they don't really know much about them, you're pretty much telling the story for this person of like why should they care. Pretty much people coming out of this movie that don't know anything about Margaret Thatcher are going to be like, oh wow, she was kind of a bitch. And it's like I don't think that's a good representation of who she was as a person.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing here too, right? Is in the beginning of the movie, it's, hey, look how great and strong this woman was to overcome all the trials of being the first woman to do this, dealing with the a-hole men in parliament. And then by the end, they were like trying to make you hate this woman. And it's like,
Yeah.
I want you as a director of a biopic to tell me what I should know about this person. Don't give me the actual information and just be like, you make up your own mind. Tell me how you feel about this person. This is your story that you're telling. And
exactly.
it just did not do that at all here. And getting into the editing, I gave that a 1. Super disjointed, super nonlinear structure. I love nonlinear storytelling. This belongs in hell. It was really bad. It was so poorly done. The jumping was a mess, and it was a nightmare to watch. It felt very pointless and contextless the whole time.
Editing was also like a 1 for me. It was really low just because there's nonlinear like editing styles either really works or really doesn't work. And this was an example of it really not working.
Not in a biopic. It just doesn't seem.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you could say it was kind of done in Oppenheimer that way, but there was still like a 3-act structure that worked really well. This jumped between probably 6 or 7 different acts throughout the movie, and it was tough watch.
It's a 3-act structure, but all wrapped around for Oppenheimer one main idea, while this is wrapped around like her entire life.
Yeah. Overall, I gave the movie a 3.6 out of 10 or a 36.
I think I lost you.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I lost you.
Wi-Fi go out? I'm back.
Yep.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so getting into the overall score, I gave it a 3.6 out of 10 or a 36. Might be the lowest score I've done on this show for any movie. Just super disjointed movie, super terrible storytelling. I was looking forward to learning more about Margaret Thatcher as a person and seeing Meryl Streep's acting, but yeah, it just kind of got ruined for me.
Yeah, me too. What'd you give it again?
3.6.
No way. I also give it a 3.6. That's insane.
We're doing this too much.
Yeah.
The minds are melding.
Cool. And then the other movie that we did this week for Meryl Streep, before we actually switch over, Iron Lady won 2 Oscars, one for makeup and hairstyling and for Meryl Streep performance. I think both are like honestly kind of well worth it. I mean, she looks uncannily like Margaret Thatcher. Doesn't look like Meryl Streep.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what else it was up against that year because it seems like not like a very strong like Frankenstein one this year, and that's like a crazy makeup and hairstyling compared to this movie. But yeah, the other movie we did was The Bridges of Madison County, directed by Clint Eastwood, who we did a while back, and then we did. And then stars Meryl Streep as the other main actress. So I'll just get right into the plot. It follows Meryl Streep, who's the mother of the family. As her family goes on like a trip away, she stayed back. And this photographer that kind of comes up to her, asking for directions, and she leads him to like this bridge, and it starts an affair, pretty much. But it seems like a very like romanticized. They kind of are meant for each other kind of affair, and kind of dissolves around into that. And overall, I gave the plot a 9. I really enjoyed the story. Comparing it to The Notebook, it's everything the Notebook wishes it was, in my opinion. to where you could tell. I didn't think Clint Eastwood and Meryl Streep would have like this chemistry coming into it, and they did. It surprised me how much chemistry they had. They were a lot more careful
of
of
romanticizing
romanticizing
cheating
cheating compared to a lot of other romance films, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, definitely like instant soulmates we kind of talked about earlier. Their connection kind of reminded me of Before Sunrise, which we watched a couple weeks ago. Just kind of how they could basically just sit in a room and talk about anything for hours, and that's what it was. And that's kind of what I got out of them, right? Their connection was so deep. It wasn't them just hooking up to hook up. It was like an actual connection that they were both by the end of the week, by the time it was all over, both really, really torn up about basically having to move on with their lives and never seeing each other again, which was definitely interesting to see.
But they kept like thinking about each other until she died, pretty much, and that's why she wanted her ashes spread. Yeah, a very like touching romance movie
that
that we
both
both agreed where
we didn't
we didn't like how it romanticized cheating, but again, I think a lot of romance movies sadly has like some form of cheating in them, which I think has kind of made it into like popular culture, and cheating is like happens more and more now. I think nowadays I never really understand cheating from a personal perspective. I think it's just super disrespectful to anybody, if you actually care about them. But I think this does do it a lot more carefully than most romance movies nowadays do it.
Yeah, I agree.
Characters, I gave it 8 out of 10. I really liked the lead too. I mean, we did Clint Eastwood a while back. It was interesting to see him in this role. Way different than the other two movies that we did with him. He is like playing a really good, like dramatized, like love character. And then Meryl Streep is playing this like kind of deep woman that like feels like she's misunderstood by her own family.
Yeah, I would have never taken him for.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I really enjoyed like just the character arcs of them both.
kind of
Kind of like a
meme
image at the end of like him sitting in the rain crying, but it is definitely emotional, but pretty easy to make memes out of. But
the
the cinematography, I give it 8 out of 10. I really enjoyed this
to
to
where
where
I
I
just
just
like
like
the
the
natural
natural
beauty
beauty
of
of like a Midwestern place, you know?
It kind of
It kind of again romanticizes like Midwest
life,
life, I guess,
in a
in a
sense, to
sense, to
where
where
a lot of people
a
are
lot of
like,
people are
oh,
like, oh, it's just corn, it's just flat out there. This kind of makes it look beautiful, you know, and like a nice small town feel to it that I really liked.
Yeah, no, definitely had that small town feel. And I think it was captured overall really well. A lot of good imagery, obviously, with the bridges being the title of the movie. Every time you saw him taking pictures around a bridge, that it had some sort of significance into the overall arching plot. And, that's where she ends up getting her ashes spread. So really beautiful way to tie up all together, but really great cinematography all around.
Yeah. Getting into dialogue, I really enjoyed like a lot of their like just conversations that they had with each other. Again, comparing it to like Before Sunrise, very romanticized in the way like you could just tell that there's a connection there that is deeper than just a lustful connection that I think comes off in a lot of other romance movies about cheating. It seems more lustful kind of love. Well, this one seemed a lot more of like a connection of like two souls. That I really enjoyed. And that's what usually my favorite romance movies are, like a connection of souls more so than that lustful kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, it was so well done, right? Clint Eastwood's just sitting there talking about all these amazing stories about him traveling the world, and somebody who feels like she's been stuck in the same place her whole life, getting to hear about all these amazing things. How exciting is that, right? And now she's stuck and has to look forward to either spending the rest of her life there still, or kind of moving out and doing all those amazing things with him as well. The dialogue was so well done, specifically in that sense. It really made you feel for her kind of being stuck there as well.
Yeah, because there was definitely like a point. This is set in the '60s where you feel like you need as a mother or like as a woman that you need to get married, need to have kids by a certain age,
and
and you're just kind of stuck like that, rather, and like you give up like your personality and your own personal goals, it seems like, and that's what she kind of deep dives into it. Like you don't understand. She says throughout the movie, she's like, I made this choice, but I didn't really think I would ever have a love like this happen to me. And now that I have it, I want to keep it forever, but I can't just give up my family that I created at the same time.
And it leads
And it leads to him to say like a really memorable line of like, I don't want to need you because I can't have you. And you can just feel that
how
how sad he is.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's super well done in that sense.
And then getting into acting, I gave it a 9 out of 10 to where, again, I didn't expect the chemistry to come off the screen to me between them, because it just doesn't seem like it would work.
Yeah.
You got this like gritty cowboy like Clint Eastwood and Meryl Streep, who plays super serious roles of like drama roles, and it just works. It just surprised me. It works so well.
I didn't know this movie existed before this week, and I would have never connected these two actors in a million years.
No.
You know, there's like people that you could be like, oh yeah, they would fit in a scene well together, but never would have got this, and it was really well done.
Yeah, it definitely lined light on Meryl Streep herself, because I think her accent's also really well done in this movie. To where like accents sometimes are hit or miss, but I think it's really well done. Reading up on her as an actress, a lot of people say that usually her accents are really good, and like she really does like her research into it and doesn't like try to half-ass like accents. And then really just limelights like even more on Clint Eastwood. I was shocked. I don't know. I saw him in $1 Million Baby playing like a dramatic role, but it still gave off like this gritty cowboy-esque like kind of character. There's like no cowboy-esque to this kind of guy. He's just like a photographer that there's nothing that about him that gives off a vibe of like, I could kill you with a gun right now.
Yeah, definitely not. He's playing kind of like a wanderer, like a curious mind, right? He's just ready to see what's around the next corner at any turn. And being a photographer, you have to have that open-minded kind of view. But yeah, he portrays it really well. I never got that sense of him at any point in time.
Yeah, no, really impressive.
In fact, he was being the nice guy.
And we talked about, yeah. He was being like the nicest one, and then like so caring. And you can see why she fell in love with him, because like not just did he listen, but he responded in like an effective listening way, to where like trying to know what she wanted in her life, which she seemed like she never got from her husband at that time, which is unfair because that's just like a different type of love that she had with him. To compare, again, where we don't want to romanticize the cheating factor. It's just like she was understood in a different way from him compared to her actual husband. Sound effects for me was the only like middle ground thing to me, to where I think romance movies for the most part don't have this very effective sound effects, and for me that really hits where it's just middle ground for me. I gave it a 5.
Yeah, nothing special, and the overall soundtrack as well, I thought was just fine as well. So yeah.
Set design, I gave it 8 out of 10. Adds into like cinematography, what we talked about. Midwest feel, really beautiful, like the Midwest, and I really liked it. I mean, it's called the Bridges of Madison County. Bridges, plural, when it's like really based around one bridge. But I like the bridge. Yeah, I think it was a cool like set piece, to revolve around.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you said the bridge in Madison County, it feels more like it's a story about like building a bridge or something. So I kind of get it.
Yeah.
Some metaphorical bridges.
True.
I don't know.
Yeah. I think it's metaphorical, not just for her, but also like the other woman that's kind of hated on from like the town for cheating. And that's why they're like so careful about like being public around each other.
Yeah.
But all it took probably was one person driving up that bridge and being like, what are these two weirdos doing taking pictures of each other?
Real creepy, like. No, great set design though.
Yeah. Directing, I gave it 8 out of 10, just because I think this is just a different movie for Clint Eastwood than the other ones that we saw. Like Gran Torino is like very way different, like more gritty, and then $1 Million Baby, gritty. All these movies in the 2000s, Battles of Iwo Jima, just gritty, and this one's like a romance film. Totally out of like left field for me compared to like all those other movies.
Bro might be a playa, dude. He was 20 years older than her when they filmed this. A little creepy. Great movie though. All of a sudden he wants to do a rom-com. Like, come on, man.
Hey,
Clint Eastwood was like, I'm pretty sure, still like a sex symbol in like the 90s. Even though he was old as hell, they were still like,
I guess.
he was still probably. Editing, I gave it an 8 out of 10. There's nothing like crazy special, but I still think it's effectively done of like cutting back and forth to where you aren't confused as to where each character is.
the
Like the biggest thing about Iron Lady is like you're just confused at where we are in the story, you know?
Yeah.
This
This one you never feel confused because it cuts back to like the kids.
You're like,
oh, okay.
now they're
reading
reading
about
this
and all that. Yeah.
Yeah. I would say this is like an averagely edited movie, but the shit feels like a 10 out of 10 after watching Iron Lady.
Yeah. I may have like
high rated it just because
compared to
the
other movie, I was like, dude, this is
actually
actually really effectively done. Like cutting different times.
And then
Lastly,
I
I
gave
gave
it
it 8 out of 10. Just I hit off points because
I think that's such a
weird way to tell the kids that you had an affair
through like
through like
a
a letter.
like I'm like those poor
kids.
It's just
Like you not just when you die, but they just get to read up about how you were making love to this dude.
And like
in like a week that they were all gone.
It was giving incendies, but I was having sex with the photographer. Sorry.
Yeah,
We're the sexy
photographer.
Like
it was just I was like,
oh, okay.
It's a
It's a
little
little
weird.
weird.
And then like
Any movie with the affair, I just don't think
I could
I
give
could
it
give it
10
personally, just because I don't know. Again, I just don't really agree with cheating, but
it does
see you
understand
like
the
the other side of like cheating and like why it would happen. And obviously it's set during a time in the 60s where it's just social culture is just was a lot more judgmental back then of people, you know.
Definitely. And, you could definitely tell like leaving her family wasn't an option for her. I understand, where we're coming from too on the cheating thing, not an acceptable thing to do. But I think it was just mainly to really get into the idea of, going and living the life you want to live versus the life that somebody else wants you to live, which was society at the time. Which in that sense, it was really well done. And that internal struggle was really well done with her character.
Yeah, I agree. Overall, I gave it 8.0 out of 10 or 80 out of 100. I really enjoyed this film, so like a 4-star film to me.
Yeah, I gave it a 7.9. We were right there. Almost did it again.
Yep. We were really close to getting exact for both of them. That would have been insane. But nah, I really like this movie. Definitely compared to the Iron Lady. Definitely demonstrated what Meryl Streep can do with like a really good story, you know?
Yeah. One thing I'd like to notice particularly, I didn't bring up during her acting, you really felt her falling in love with him. Even when she wasn't narrating herself, you could still feel it like by her body language and everything like that, which stood out for especially an old movie too. It's easy to like tell body language in movies nowadays with the high def cameras, but even as such an old movie, she really sold her body language and could tell she was falling in love with them right there.
Yeah. From the three movies that we watched this week, I could see it in all those. She's really good at acting with like her body language as well throughout all three of those films. Even like Kramer versus Kramer, even though it's not like she's not in all that much. Like even like the court scene, you could feel it without like her saying stuff, you know. Even though she's like supposed to be the villain of that film essentially, but yeah, really effective actress. Yeah. So I think we definitely need to come back around to her, maybe do like a Meryl Streep part 2 in like half a year or something like that, just because she is like one of the biggest actresses of all times.
We'll watch Mamma
check
Mia.
out more of her films. Yeah. Or I'll try to convince you to watch The Devil Wears Prada. We'll see.
But
yeah, maybe watch it before the second one comes out because I really like The Devil Wears Prada, the first one. I think it's a really rewatchable movie. We'll see how the second one goes, but
I don't know if I will have an option with number 2 coming out. I'm sure Madison will have it on some point.
Yeah. She'll be like, all right, yep, we're rewatching this, and you're like, all right. Yeah. But because we haven't watched enough about Meryl Streep, we decided not to do like a ranking for her this week. But instead, we want to do a draft that's kind of focused on a lot of the movies that she does. She does a lot of family drama films. So we're gonna do a family drama draft.
So the
So the
categories
categories
are
are going to be
Oscar
Oscar
nominated,
nominated,
family
family
secret,
secret,
emotional
emotional
struggles
struggles slash
trauma,
trauma,
relationship
relationship
struggles,
struggles,
science
science
fiction,
fiction,
ensemble
ensemble
cast,
cast,
and wild
and
card.
wild card. So 7
I've been
categories.
cooking up some devious stuff, Tyler.
If you say La La Land,
You're gonna hate
I'm
me
cutting
by
the
the end of
podcast
this
early.
one. I don't think you'll hate me, but some of these
Cool.
you're gonna be like, "Oh my god."
Because you say that, I don't really care who goes first because I don't think there is like a one-on-one pick. Because I think there's a lot more family drama movies than I thought coming into this, to be quite honest.
Yeah,
So you can just go first.
I'm gonna. Oh, dude, where do I want to go with this first? Give me Oscar nominated. I'll take Hamnet.
Okay.
We'll call it Best Picture, I guess. This is what I'd call our 101 because I know we both really love this movie and, recency bias and all too. A really great family movie just about family trauma and Shakespeare in general. But yeah, really well done too. Beautiful movie.
Yeah, actually, crazy good movie. Had me bawling my eyes out in the theater twice. So any movie that does that, I'm like, I feel like I have to give you a 5 stars. I love Hammett. It was definitely on my short list.
I'm
I'm
gonna
gonna
one
up with you with just a Best Picture nominee with the Best Picture winner,
Parasite.
Parasite.
Yeah, that's
for
good.
Oscar nom.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
it's a whole family, two different families about diamond struggles, but just how like one is like kind of keeping a secret from the other. Societal problems, super complicated movie, kind of broke like the international movie record with like
winning
Best Picture.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I think there's a lot of argument for best international film of all time up there.
Yeah.
People still talk about this movie like it came out this year today.
Yeah, it's so good.
Cool.
I feel like that was like a number one pick for me by far.
Yeah.
For me, for the next one, I have a lot of other ones available. The one that I saw there being not as deep for me was relationship struggles. And for there, I'm gonna go with Marriage Story. Yeah, Adam Driver and Scarlett Johansson. It's probably their best work for both of them, in my opinion. They're just so good in it. And you could tell that they loved each other at one point, and then they just absolutely hate each other. Really like sad view of like divorce too.
Yeah. All right. Let me see here. There's a lot of really good ones for this category. I'm going to go Family Secret and I'm going to go Incendies, one we watched on the podcast. Really good secret, dude. That movie is dark. It'd tear you apart. I was talking about it with a friend this week. Yeah, just really amazing, well done movie.
Yeah. No, that was definitely on my short list as well for about Secret and so good. We already did it on this podcast. If you want to go check out the Denny episode, we go pretty in depth about it.
Yeah. Let me see here. This is tough. I think I'm gonna go relationship struggles. A little bit different one, but I love this movie. I'm gonna go The Iron Claw. Obviously, the main relationship struggle here was between the kids and their father. Obviously, a lot of societal pressure as well, but mainly coming from their father and being a wrestler. And you kind of see the kids fall one by one because of that. But just such a well-acted movie, such a great movie. Really see Zac Efron shine outside of, what he would normally do. Was pretty amazing, and I hope he does more of that to come.
Yeah, one of the biggest snubs of the 2020s for him not being at least nominated for an Oscar. I think it's just because he's Zac Efron. That's the only reason why.
Yeah, that sucks though, man. That was a good movie.
Okay, so for me, I'm gonna go with emotional struggle slash trauma, and I'm gonna go with Manchester by the Sea.
Damn. Yeah.
I think this is just like when it came out to emotional struggles and trauma. I was like, this is the first movie that came to my mind. Casey Affleck's so good. It's such a sad movie. So embrace yourself. If you want a good cry, this is definitely a movie to put on. But if you want to be happy, do not watch this movie. Okay, so next for me, it's gonna be science fiction. There's a lot of family drama, science fiction movies that I could try to pull, but I am your father. I'm gonna go Empire Strikes Back.
Okay. I thought that was gonna be outlandish for me to say that. That's good.
I mean, the main plot point of that movie, I could have taken it. Family Secret is also on my list for that, but I think I have one that I really want to pick for that one. But I mean, one of the most famous lines of like movie history is Luke, I am your father, and then they make the whole series about that. Like they make a whole prequel about it. So yeah.
Is my pick?
Yep.
All right. I'm gonna stay with science fiction here. And hear me out, man. I'm gonna take Interstellar.
No, that's definitely family drama. I mean, the whole 4D thing is revolved around that damn book room. But
And the father and the daughter was such a big plot premise. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I had only watched Interstellar about a year ago, and coming into it, I would have never taken away, like, I would have never said there was, like, going to be such big family themes and, you know, love and passion between family members, but yeah, that's a huge plot point of the movie, so.
yeah. Pretty much the critical note of the movie.
Yeah, let me see here. Go two ways here. I can go two ways here. Okay, I'm going to take Prisoners for Emotional Trauma.
Yeah.
Obviously, another great one. Yeah, just, you know, the trauma of having a child missing. I'm sure that is a lot, and we really get to see that displayed by Jackman. I think he was amazing in that film and played a really amazing father in that film. Not the best dad in the world, but yeah, seeing the struggles a father goes through.
Yeah, I think we did this for the Jake Gyllenhaal episode. I think so. Yeah. So if you want to check out our review on that one, same with Interstellar. We did that with the Chris Nolan episode too. But yeah, I really like Prisoners. You know that as well. Okay, for me, I still think you're gonna pick My Family Secret. I'd be very surprised. And you already got a Family Secret one. Ensemble cast seems like a really short, but I feel like I just had to go with like probably my favorite movie out of them, and that would be Little Woman.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of ways you can go in that category.
It's just notably like one of my more favorite movies. It's a really comfort movie for me that makes New England like really look cool, but also just like really cool to see like family relationships with the girls.
Yeah.
Family Secret, I'm gonna go with Get Out.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, you don't really know you think something's off like the whole movie, but the secret is that they just start stealing like African Americans like souls to like insert themselves into them. It'd be interesting to do a Jordan Peele episode just to like dive deep into his movies, even though we've seen them, just because his movies are so deep in so many other ways.
Yeah, for sure. Let me see here. I wanted to take something with Meryl Streep this week. You know, one of my favorite movies of all time. For ensemble cast, I'm going to take Fantastic Mr. Fox. Obviously, George Clooney, Bill Murray, Meryl Streep, Willem Dafoe, Owen Wilson, Jason Schwartzman. Pretty good cast there.
Yeah, no. It's interesting that you took it as like a voice acting role too, not like a, you know, like them acting, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And then I guess I'm on my last one here. I want to take one. I'll probably just leave it for, no, I'll take it. Because it definitely has to do with it. So for wild card, I'm going to take one of my favorites from this year. I'm going to take Train Dreams. Obviously, you know, not necessarily about the family as a whole, but more about the trauma within the family and losing family. Such a big thing, kind of similar, I guess, to Manchester by the Sea in that sense. Just seeing that trauma and breakdown and, you know, kind of how that affects the rest of your life. I really like that movie this year, and I wish I would have got more love at the Oscars.
That we talked about this movie a good amount of times. I wish it came out like in the theater rather than coming out on Netflix. I think it would have done pretty good at the theater, and it would have been really cool to see on like a big screen rather than at home. For my last pick, I'm gonna go with another movie that we've done, Arrival. Just because you don't actually know it's a family drama, but like the whole movie ends, and you're like, oh wait a second, like one, I'm crying, but also like this had something to do with like her family the entire time. Yeah, that was her husband. Like, that's just insane. Such a good movie. I feel like I had to say it. Cool. So, my team was for Oscar nom. I took Parasite for Best Picture. Family Secret. I did Get Out. Emotional Trauma. Manchester by the Sea. Relationship Struggles. Marriage Story. Science Fiction. Star Wars. Empire Strikes Back. Ensemble cast. Little Woman. And Wild Card. Arrival.
See, The Iron Lady just gets me so upset and angry. I end up picking all these sad movies.
Yeah.
Oscar nom, I picked Hamnet for Best Picture. Family Secret, I picked Incendies. Emotional trauma, I picked Prisoners. Relationship struggles, I picked Iron Claw. Sci-fi, I picked Interstellar. Ensemble cast, I picked Fantastic Mr. Fox. The son in my draft for sure.
Yeah, you're literally the only happy movie.
And then wild card, Train Dreams.
Yeah. Holy crap. Yeah, you have the most depressing team. And Fantastic Mr. Fox is just like kind of just snuck in there as like here's some happiness, but
Just holding me up.
yeah. Yeah.
Thank God for Wes Anderson.
I feel like I did a good job of like equaling out like the sad ones with like really interesting movies. Because to be fair, I think Manchester by the Sea is probably the saddest movie out of like the whole group. Just like
Movies,
the theme of it all.
terrifying.
Yeah.
Cool.
Cool. I'll do like some honorable mentions. I have a bunch.
For
For Oscar nom, I had It's a Wonderful Life.
I had
I had Toy Story 3.
I think
I think that really goes into like family, like moving on from things as well. Or E.T. Extraterrestrial
as
as well.
A
A
sneaky
sneaky one that I don't think you've seen, but
I think you
I think you would really like because it has Steven Yeun in it. Minari. It involves this like Korean family that moves to Arkansas and like tries to make a life for themselves.
Okay.
I think you would really like
Yeah, I'd
it.
have to check that out.
Family
A Family Secret. I had The Prestige as well. I don't want to say the thing that's revealed because you haven't seen it. So, but if you know, you know. Emotional struggles, trauma. I had The Pursuit of Happiness.
Oh, dude,
After
what a good one.
Yeah.
Can't
Yeah.
believe I forgot that.
After Sun as well. That's some trauma that's being
Yeah.
relived in that movie. Person Being a Wallflower and Hereditary. Relationship struggles. I had Anora. I thought it was like kind of a relationship struggle.
I don't know. I
I
mean,
feel like family drama is quite good.
Yeah.
That's why I did pick
Not-
it because I was like,
I guess technically her family, but she doesn't really know him. So, yeah.
yeah. A Star is Born is another one for relationship struggles. That movie gets really sad really quick out of nowhere.
And then
The most recent one, the drama, I also had in there. I
feel like it
came out too recent for me to pick it
Yeah.
though. I really liked it.
Science
Fiction. I had Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
Again,
Very going out there for family drama. That's why I didn't
Yeah.
pick it.
And then
The Incredibles as
Yeah.
well.
And then
Ensemble
Ensemble
cast, Little Miss Sunshine
with like
with like Steve Carell, Paul Dano. The Royal Tenenbaums, also Wes Anderson film.
And
And
then
then extra, I did Warrior, another movie that I've shouted out before on this with the guy from Train Dreams and as well as Tom Hardy.
Okay, cool. I had a couple honorable mentions. Yeah, some of these were reaches. La La Land. No, I'm just kidding. I didn't have that on here. Obviously, Kramer versus Kramer, which we talked about this week, was a big one. I had There Will Be Blood. I mean, if we count the real dynamic between him and his son, I think that's the main family portion. There is other portions of that movie that are really good as well. Place Beyond the Pines, I know we just watched that a couple weeks ago, had a huge deal with generational trauma in a family. I had Spirited Away too. I know we watched that a while ago. We kind of determined that there's a lot of different things you can take from that. One of them being her family, instantly turning into pigs and her being left alone and scared. That was a big portion of it, so I guess you could count that as well. Yeah, some really great family dramas that when I was looking through these lists, there's so many that you can kind of relate to that.
Yeah, no, for sure. Awesome. Well, we'll send it out there and see you guys vote who won this draft.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, thanks for listening this week to the Meryl Streep episode.
Forward to
Forward to
coming back next
coming
week
back next week to talk to y'all.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening.
See ya.